An Apple a Day by Hyper-Me. Chapter 8. El only had about 2 days of gloating over his victory against Raito and the Viagra when his balloon was popped with a sharp needle. Isha had murdered again, and they failed to catch him again. His plan went up in flames. Again! El angrily crunched on an innocent cookie, giving a death glare to the computer screen, looking at pictures taken at the scene of the crime. He grabbed a handful of panda crackers and crushed them within his fist before shoving them in his mouth, chomping furiously. Watari fulfilled his duty by pouring him a cup of hot coffee, unfortunately with lots of sugar, while he read off the notes taken from the crime scene investigator.
Part 1 of the plan worked exactly, Master L. He consoled. Isha had indeed taken one of the hired proxies, the boy with the dyed red tips in Club Chinatown. He had drugged him and carried him out of the club.
But that's where we messed up, El growled.
Yes, we located the tracing chip in a random garbage can, with it still attached to the clothes he was wearing.
All the victims were wearing the clothes eyewitnesses said they had on at the club. Our boy was still wearing the clothes he wore at the club when he was found. Isha must have thought of tracking devices and had all the original clothes thrown away and gave them clothes that were identical to the ones they were wearing. He's good.
He is clever,
Watari nodded.
But Master L, you are smart, huh? You will figure out a way to overcome him.
You are correct, Watari, he said, giving him an appreciative nod. I need something, though, to help move my brain process.
Apple? Watari asked hopefully. Or maybe some blackcurrant, redcurrant, gooseberry, apple, guava, pomegranate, avocado, kiwi fruit, apple, grape, melon, orange, apple, lemon, lime, grapefruit, apple, banana, cranberry, blueberry, apple, blackberry, raspberry, boysenberry, pineapple, fig, mulberry, apple, apricot, peach, cherry, apple, strawberry, plum, or apple. May I suggest the apple?
Cake! El cheered to himself, seeming to completely miss Watari's impressive list of fruits. I need some cake to help me crack this case. Watari, would you like to get me some?
Strawberry?
Chocolate. Watari sighed in defeat, but bowed out and left to fetch El's fruit-lacking cake. As Watari closed the door, El returned his attention to the pictures in front of him. The proxy's penis was sliced open and stuffed with cotton like a teddy bear. After Isha had castrated him, cracked open his skull with a mallet, and replaced his brain with his stuffed penis. The pictures were just as terrible as they sounded. As El reread the investigation notes, he wondered what had sparked such a horrific impulse to kill this way, making people go through surgery, if one could call it surgery, by an unlicensed doctor without anesthesia. Revenge, maybe? Or possibly a way of life that has been drilled into his head since a child? The NPA didn't hold too many records of Eruchigo Isha because the man, although whacked up in the mind, had an impressive IQ. He managed to tear down the firewalls and crack the codes to delete almost every record of himself. El believed there was a secret file on him running around in the underground business, though. Well, El thought as he bit his thumb, at least something new was brought to the surface. Tracking devices did not work, and the clothes that the victims wore at the scene of the crime were not the ones they left the house in. On top of all that, Isha's mental stability was declining at a rapid rate. Watari returned with a considerate-sized piece of chocolate cake and a fresh brew of coffee. El dug straight away into the cake and ate as he worked. The elder gentleman silently refilled the empty cup of coffee, looking over El's shoulder.
Do you have an idea as to what you are about to do next?
As of the moment, no. Soon, no doubt, I will have to take desperate measures in order to solve this. My focus right now is the motive behind Isha's actions. There is a 73% chance that the murders are ignited by revenge. I wish to know what that is. Watari, please get Deputy Yagami on the phone.
Of course, Master L.
Watari said, putting a phone out of his pocket and quickly dialed the number before handing it to him. El pressed the voice synthesizer switch moments before the dial tone ended. Hello? Yagami residence? El nearly dropped the phone in shock, but pulled himself together at an amazing rate. Good afternoon, Raito-san. I wish to speak to your father. El could see his beloved's caramel eyes narrowing in suspicion. Who is this? How do you know who I am, and how do you know my father? I do not want to play 20 questions with you, Raito-san. If your father is home, his presence is most needed at this moment. No, Raito snapped. He is not home at the moment. He is at work. Elle knew this was a lie because Elle gave the investigation team a day off, and even if he didn't, he would be monitoring his work at this very moment.
That is a lie, Raito-san, and I am in no mood to play around. When your father is home, I expect a call from him.
What makes you think he's going to call you? You're practically a robot.
He will call me back, Elle responded. Tell him Elle called.
Elle! He heard Raito gasp. What? Wait!
Good day, Raito-san.
He hung up, feeling quite elated. No more than 5 minutes later, Watani had received a call from Deputy Yagami and transferred it over to Elle's phone, pressing the voice synthesizer switch button and asked,
You have a rude son, Yagami-san. He lied to me.
I'm terribly sorry, Elle.
Soichiro said.
It's not every day a synthesized voice calls your parents' house and asks to talk to your father. You can never be too safe when you're a police officer.
I suppose not. Down to the case, Yagami-san. I want you to gather information on Eruchiko Isha as soon as possible.
But Isha's information is limited in the NBA database.
Not that kind of information. An in-depth background report. I want to know why he is performing surgery on young and good-looking bargoers. Need to know his motivation. Hack into the underground files. There's bound to be something.
Yes, of course, Al. I will do everything that I could do.
Very good. Thank you, Yagami-san. I shall see you tomorrow. Oh, yes, one more thing. Keep an eye on your son.
My son? Raito? Why?
Soichiro interrupted.
I heard he's got quite a nasty stalker, Yagami-san, by the weight of Teru Mikami. I believe Raito-san had once promised Teru Mikami a date if Teru Mikami could publicly humiliate the patient.
What?
It was all Elle could do not to burst his gut from keeping his laughter inside.
Yes, this Teru Mikami, let me repeat, Teru Mikami is quite infatuated with young naive Raito-san. If you're not lucky, someone that obsessed like Teru Mikami could easily...
Raito! Get over here this second!
Elle held the phone at arm's length to protect his ears from hearing this.
Oh, thank you for the tip, Elle. Raito! I'll get to work straight away after I deal with this. Raito, I swear!
The phone disconnected and Elle was greeted with 2 beeps before the line was silent. He handed the phone back to a chuckling Watani.
Master Elle, I believe a while ago I said you were cruel.
Yes, I remember that.
I changed my mind. You're malicious.
I take that in stride, Watari.
Elle answered, finishing off the rest of his cake. Do you have any more cake? Tiramisu, perhaps?
Watari frowned but took the plate nonetheless. Of course, Master Elle.
Soichiro came in the next morning in a worse mood than yesterday, unbelievably.
What is wrong, Yagami-san?
Elle asked upon seeing the man.
Did you not find out information involving Eruchika Isha?
Oh, I found information about him all right.
The normally righteous and rational detective growled out at the laptop.
I found out all about him. Him and his sick pleasures.
May I see what Yagami-san has found that made him so upset?
Elle asked, trying to sound calm to not piss his future father-in-law off more than he already was. He knew his blunt attitude and unattached emotions could really send people over the edge.
Could you please send it to my email address?
30 seconds later, the chime of, "You've got mail!" rang from his computer speakers. Elle opened the file and bit his thumb as he read. Eruchika Isha grew up motherless, for his mother had died in childbirth. Her doctor was drunk and took her into the emergency room, positive she needed to have a heart transplant after delivery, and forgot to numb and knock her out. His father, a hard-working carpenter, slaved day and night to support Isha and his brother. During work, Isha's father had gotten seriously injured, breaking his left leg in 5 places, tore a few ligaments, and shattered his collarbone. The doctor, who was later revealed as a fraud, purposely screwed around with Isha's father for his own sick pleasure. Isha's father had died, leaving 10-year-old Isha and his 14-year-old brother to defend for themselves. His brother, having a grudge against doctors for making him an orphan, conjured a plan to kill any doctors that messed up in the emergency room, even going as far as to work as a janitor in a hospital to keep an ear out for rumors. Isha's brother had killed and managed to kill 20 before the detective Araldo Coyle caught him. Now Isha has a need for revenge against doctors for killing his mother, father, and giving his brother the need to avenge that resulted in his capture. He also cursed out his mother for ever having sex and burying him. His mother worked as a bartender in a popular club, and that is where she met Isha's father. They were together for 5 years before they got married and had Isha's older brother. His mother continued to work at the club until she died. Al was satisfied, very satisfied, with the background. It answered so many questions, tied all the loose ends, and made Al feel a bit more confident about the case. He chose young and appealing people from bars because of his mother. He performed surgery on them because he wants them to know the pain his mother and father went through. Thinking back, Al nearly slapped his face as he realized that all of the victims were going to college with a major in some area of the medical field. It was so completely obvious. Al still had one question unanswered. What was he trying to gain from killing college students? Al could understand that he would kill students who were interested in medicine, so they never achieved the title of doctor, surgeon, nurse, dentist, etc. He didn't understand, though, why Isha would kill them when, perhaps, they would grow up to be highly useful, noble professionals, instead of killing the useless drunkard doctors when they were the ones making the mistakes. And what did that lead to the doctors that did come in contact with? El's eyes widened in fright as he grabbed the microphone and yelled into it, "Yagami-san, why did you come in today with such a bad mood? Is it because Raito is a doctor and he takes in underground criminals?"
"What do you think, Al?"
Deputy Yagami asked, trying not to snap.
"My son is a doctor, Al. My son is Isha's doctor."
El bit too hard on his lip and it began to bleed.
"With that crazy man's past, it's only a ticking time bomb's time until my Raito is in those horrible pictures of the massacre."
"My thoughts are exactly Yagami-san."
El whispered miserably. He really wished that he could prove him wrong, that Raito isn't a likely future victim, as Isha hasn't attacked any actual doctors. But the fact that he's Isha's own doctor makes the percentages very high. El hadn't known that Raito was Isha's doctor, but he wished he didn't as much as he was grateful for the new information.
"I don't know what to do, Al,"
Yagami-san sighed, cradling his head in his hands.
"I do not want to tell him he's in harm's way, but he adores that clinic and his job more than his own health sometimes. I forced him to stay at my house because that stalker down the hall makes me nervous, and now I'm glad I did. I want him out of that clinic, but I know he'll never listen to me."
"I believe, Yagami-san, that your son is a strong, healthy young man who can take care of himself if the problem does arise. Raito-kun does not seem like the man to trust criminals if Isha were to offer something to him, since I am sure he has experienced many of those occasions, and I will do everything in my power to protect him."
"You're right, El."
Sojiro lifted his head and smiled weakly back at him. El noticed slight bags under his eyes. The poor man probably stayed up all night in a fit of panic and worry over his son.
"Thank you."
He returned to his work, as did El, and they waited until the rest of the members of the task force arrived in 20 minutes to tell them of their depressing findings. When El arrived at the doctor's clinic that Tuesday, he was surprised not to see Raito waiting for him. He tapped the blonde nurse on the shoulder.
"Misa-chan, would you please tell me the location of Raito-kun?"
"Raito-sensei?" Misa repeated, as if she didn't understand the language he was speaking. "Ah, of course! You probably haven't heard yet, but Raito is currently living at his parents' house for the time being. His father didn't trust Raito staying at his apartment, with Teru Mikami living only 3 doors down. But since the Yagami's house is all the way down near Tokyo, it takes Raito-sensei an hour and a half to get here. He should be here soon, though." Misa led him to the examination room. "Usually Raito-sensei doesn't come this late, even if he is staying far away. He must be stuck in traffic. Please wait here, Hideki-kun."
"Misa-chan does not wish to speak with me?"
El asked, crooning his head to see Misa pushing against his back.
"I feel very upset about that, Misa-chan. I thought we were friends."
Misa flustered, releasing his back. "Oh, I guess, of course they're friends, Hideki-kun."
"But Misa-chan is so quick to dispose of me. Perhaps she is lying to my face."
El asked dejectedly with a small pout. "Oh no, Hideki-kun, don't think that. It's Raito-sensei's fault." She yelped, covering her mouth with her hand, but the damage was already done.
"Raito-kun's fault," he stressed. "Why, Misa-chan, what do you mean?"
Misa's brown eyes widened for a second before she swiftly glanced over her shoulder. "Quick!" she whispered, roughly pushing him into the examination room. "Before Kiyomi-chan comes out of the bathroom." She closed the door behind him. "Raito-sensei doesn't want Kiyomi-chan and I to speak to you."
"Why not?"
he asked, eyes blinking for the added innocent effect. He's afraid we're gonna tell you some secret or something that will cause you to win the bet," she answered softly, playing with the hem of her pink skirt. She looked like she was half tempted to burst out of the room at any second.
"But what information could you possibly hold that would cause Raito-kun to lose the bet?"
"My
fact that he's quite sensitive about the subject of, you know.
She trailed off, her face glowing. Elle took in the information and smiled sweetly at the nervous girl. Misa-chan is such a good friend to Raito-kun. Holding in information like that, he must be really lucky to have a friend like you.
Really? She chirped, hands clapping. You think so?
I know so, Misa-chan.
She jumped at him, throwing her arms around his waist.
Oh, Hideki-kun!
Elle gaped, resisting the urge to bolt away from her touch.
You're right. Raito-sensei is such a lucky guy to have a friend like Misa.
Elle awkwardly patted the top of her head.
Yeah, how rude of him to keep us from this lovely conversation, no?
Misa released his waist and oxygen was able to flow back into his lungs.
You're right. Raito-sensei shouldn't keep friends apart.
She nodded, blonde pigtails flying.
Shouldn't you be going now? Kiyomi-chan must be done with her bathroom break by now.
Her eyes widened again.
Oh, gosh. Lovely chatting with you, Hideki-kun. Raito-sensei should be here soon.
She slammed the door shut.
Elle hopped onto the examination table. He replayed the newly given information.
He smirked, whistling a merry tune. Looks like a change of plans is in order. In no more than 5 minutes later, he heard Raito running into the office.
I'm sorry I'm late, he huffed. Thank you, Kiyomi-chan, for opening today on such short notice.
You're welcome, Raito-sensei. Hideki-kun has arrived.
He has? I don't have to be alone in the room.
Elle snickered to himself quietly as Raito cursed. He heard a slamming noise and predicted that the sound was Raito chucking his briefcase onto the counter. The slamming was followed by a couple of stomps to the examination room, where they paused briefly. Elle guessed the hot-headed Raito was trying to get his cool, and he slowly opened the door.
Hello, are you? Thank goodness you're here, Doctor.
Elle shouted uncharacteristically loud, pretending he was in a soap opera.
I appear to have a genital wart.
Go! The door was slammed behind him. Elle blinked at the empty room.
Was it something I said?
Raito-sensei!
He heard Misa chirp, seeing the doctor on the other side of the door.
What are you doing out here?
All right, who spilt? He growled venomously. One of you talked to him today. Which one was it? He heard Misa splutter.
What do you mean, Raito-sensei?
You know perfectly well, Misa-chan. The secret you know about my patients.
It wasn't me.
Me neither. Well, who did it then?
Hideki-kun is smart, Raito-sensei. He might have figured it out all on his own. And I know as well as Misa-chan and I that he does not have a wart.
Possibly.
So get back in there and examine Hideki-kun.
Fuck no. This is one thing I will not touch.
What about the bet?
I do not have to treat his what to win the bet. The bet was that I wouldn't fall in love with him by the end of 4 weeks. Not helping him. In fact, it's only helping me win the bet.
He's in there right now smirking himself to death because he got all riled up. Look at the blush.
I'm not blushing.
Ryuga Hideki's penis. Raito-sensei, you're blushing worse than a high school girl's first time.
Do you want to be fired, Misa-chan?
Not particularly, no.
Then shut up.
Raito-sensei,
Elle heard Kiyomi say.
just go along with it. Please finish the checkup.
Raito sighed and re-entered the room. He looked at Elle with a clinical eye. I hate you.
That is most depressing, Raito-kun, because I care very much about you. Now, we will not discuss my genital wart, because although this may come as a surprise to you, Raito-kun, but I do not have one. You don't have a genital wart, Ryuga. I would have never guessed. Raito growled in mock astonishment. I thank Raito-kun for humoring me. You know that stunt was payback for giving me Viagra last week. You got your revenge by locking me in a bathroom after shoving Viagra down my throat with your tongue! Now why does it feel like that wasn't the first time I heard of a situation similar to that one? Al smirked. Is it true that Raito-kun is living with his father? Raito's sadistic, playful mask was gone, only to be replaced with his true angry emotions. Misa-chan told you then? L nodded. My father got a tip from the great detective L that I have a stalker living 3 doors down from my apartment. He blew up and is forcing me to stay at his house until he can find me a new building to live in. I must say, Raito-kun, your father made it onto my good side. L couldn't ignore the sarcastic tone in the way Raito said his professional title. Figures, He's gone crazy, though. He almost didn't let me come to work today. You see, Misa-chan had told my sister about you, and my father overheard Sayu talking about you and your stalker-like obsession, and the bet to get me into your bed. Ah, but Raito-kun, the bet is to win over your heart. Same thing in your mind. The point is that I'm being driven crazy at home and at work. I miss my apartment. There were no overprotective fathers, obnoxious sisters, noisy mothers, and no stalkers, he said, shooting Elle an accusing look. Except the one 3 doors down. Well, yes, but that's what looks and death threats are for. If Raito-kun would take my suggestion, I agree with Yagami-san. It is for your best health. Surely you've heard of the doctor fraud cases. Yeah, the guy who takes his victims from a bar, drugs them up, and performs surgery on them while they're alive and conscious. My father is on the team investigating them. What about it? Does Raito-kun know who the perpetrator is? No, my father refuses to let me in on it. His voice held a hint of a sardonic scoff. His name is Eruchika Isha, one of her patients. Isha-san? Raito replied in shell shock. Why, he was here just nearly 3 months ago, and again 2 months prior, about the time when my... Oh, fuck! That's about the time when my medical books disappeared. I noticed they were gone about 2 or 3 days after his appointment. Would Raito-kun be willing to share what had gone on in those 2 sessions? Elle inquired, leaning forward onto the tops of his toes, peering down at the doctor. Unless you are a detective or policeman working on the case, I am obligated to keep my patient's privacy. Even if they are a crazy mass murderer who could possibly be stopped with the information you have. I never said I wouldn't tell you. I would tell any member on the case. Why didn't you tell your father then? Raito crossed his arms on his chest in a huff. He doesn't want me to know anything about the case, so as far as I'm concerned, I know nothing about the case. And besides, how could I tell my father about Isha-san when I just learned about him being the criminal 2 minutes ago? Point taken. I happen to know the background of Isha, and he has a bad past with doctors. It frightens me to know that Raito-kun is his doctor. That passionate maniac can very easily switch his attention from bar-goers who are studying medicine to real doctors in a split second. This is why I suggest you stay at your father's house until he is under arrest and locked up safely in jail, he ordered behind the thumb at his lip. Raito studied his face for a couple of seconds before smiling softly. You truly are worried, aren't you? About me? Of course, Elle said, removing his thumb from his lip. It would be a shame to lose Raito-kun before I actually got the... What do kids call it these days? Tap that. A twitching vein on his forehead was the only warning Elle got before Raito's fist was in his face. You most definitely won't be getting to tap that with an attitude like that, you bastard! You're a terrible romantic! What a shame that Raito-kun would think that. Elle moved around Raito's second fist and kicked him in the stomach. I want to take him out on a date next week. A date? Raito growled, clutching his bruised stomach. What a romantic way to ask somebody. Insult them, kick them, and then ask them out. You're losing your opportunity points quick, Ryuga. Elle was lucky the brunette decided not to attack back. Once is once, Raito-kun. It's a motto of mine. I thought it was a decent way of asking somebody out. I got straight to the point, and it allows you to know exactly what's going on. Beating around the bush will only lead to problems and misunderstandings. Elle jumped off of the examination table, and his back cracked as it straightened out. He looked down upon Raito with an askew smile. The bet ends after next Tuesday, Raito-kun. I've got 1 week to make you fall in love with me. So far, the result has been failure. Raito finished for him with a superior glow. Yes, I expected you would say that. Although Raito-kun didn't seem to object too much last week when You tricked me into guilt, you bastard! It still remains fact that Raito-kun came willingly into the bathroom with me. Elle stole the superior glow Raito had lost after the previous comment and gloated it back at it. Would Raito-kun be willing to attend a date with me next Tuesday? Does that include a doctor checkup? Not unless I somehow get sick over the next 7 days. A date, huh? Raito asked, looking as if he were seriously considering it, something Elle didn't think he would do. I've told you before that I've been on plenty of dates in the past and never once enjoyed myself. Do you think you can break the monotony? Raito shot him a quick wink as his voice slipped into a seductive pitch. I'm confident in my abilities, Elle answered, sliding closer to Raito's body. He sneaked his long arms around his waist and silently rejoiced when Raito did not pull back but moved in. Have I failed to entertain Raito-kun yet?
No. Ryuga is a very intelligent and interesting man, but he lacks in the romantic field. Will he be able to use his creativity to make up for the lack of romance, I wonder?
I am quite skilled in creating things as I go along,
El purred when Raito fingered his hair.
Something romantic will strike me.
Raito took another step closer and rose to the top of his toes. You know, he muttered sensually against El's ear, you shouldn't get so cocky before the bet is over.
Raito gave the air in his hand a sharp tug before releasing him. He stepped backwards and kept a good distance between the two.
What time should I expect you next week?
His sensual voice was switched back to his business tone.
I believe 2 p.m. is a good idea,
El said, putting a thumb to his lip and returned to his hunched-back stance.
There are so many options for us to choose from.
Don't blow a circuit thinking,
he commented.
So I shall see you next week. Goodbye, then.
He stopped as he felt a hand clutch at his doctor coat.
Ryuga?
I was serious, Raito-kun, when I said I wanted you to stay at your father's house. I also do not want you to be alone anymore, inside or outside. If anything happened to you, I would blame myself.
El froze as a pair of lips brushed against his cheek. His wide eyes stared at the slightly flushed doctor. Raito smiled at him.
Thank you.
He spun on his heel and walked out of the room. El raised a hand to his cheek and laughed quietly to himself. That bet was as good as won.
El felt his grip on reality slip as he looked at the next slaughtered victim of Eruchika Isha. His heart pounded almost painfully in his chest, and his breathing constricted to the point of near fainting from lack of oxygen. His hands clutched at his knees in hopes of holding himself together, but he felt his body shaking with fear he's never known.
Watari,
he muttered pathetically, voice barely above a whisper. Watari was at his side in seconds, a large variety of cakes, cookies, custards, pies, and pastries placed next to his desk. El never noticed them, his eyes and brain focused solely on the pictures in front of him.
El? Oh, please answer me,
Watari called. He was frightened that if he touched his young employer, he would shatter like a glass doll. El couldn't bring himself to speak again, and Watari sped into the other room to make a call. No. El shook his head, hoping that it would blur the fake pictures, but these were not fake pictures. They were taken this morning in the warehouse where a certain 24-year-old boy with auburn hair has been mutilated. El didn't know what this victim's name was or anything else about him, only the fact that he looked like someone very near and dear to him. There was no way to ignore the facts. The only clues Isha had ever left were greatly obvious, even to a 5-year-old. El prayed that Isha had no secret meaning behind this. If what El saw was true, Raito Yagami would be a future victim. The victim had died with a number of freeze burns, chemical burned holes removed via scalpel, and electrical burns mostly on his penis and on his back. On his penis, the holes were random, but on his back, they were purposely placed in a perfect order. It was a picture of a night scene under a moon, of a crucifix. Moon, night, God. Raito Yagami. El let out a choked cry, tears frightening to streak his pale face. He grabbed a slice of cake and ate it rapidly. He snatched another, and then another, and another. Watari returned 6 minutes later to find all 26 desserts gone.
Watari,
he sobbed.
Raito is endangered.
Please do not worry, Master El.
Watari consoled, placing his hands on El's shoulders and giving him a massage.
I have called Yagami-san to inform him of last night's killings and the clue left behind. He is making sure that young Yagami-sensei will be kept safe at all costs.
I don't trust him,
he whispered, shaking harder.
I do not trust Raito with anyone but myself. I need him here to know that he will be okay.
No, El.
Watari answered.
Isha is probably keeping watch on Yagami-sensei. If he were to suddenly disappear, Isha would know and act upon it. And if he finds him with you, your life could be endangered too.
I don't mind if my life is endangered,
he said softly.
As long as Raito is alive and safe, I will be fine.
Watari's grip on his shoulders tightened painfully.
I do not want to hear that kind of talk coming from you, Lollet. We will work from behind the scenes to ensure Yagami-sensei's safety, but I will not allow you to risk your life so carelessly. It's a wonder why I'm still allowing this date to occur in 4 days.
El was silent, staring mournfully at the victim's back. Watari released his back and poured a large cup of coffee with extra sugar. It was going to be a long night after all.
I think I love him, Watari.
El whispered so quietly, it was almost missed completely.
I truly and honestly believe that. I love him.
Watari smiled softly and handed El his sugar-saturated coffee.
Anklet,